Commander Lee Sung felt the coffee cup slip from his fingers as the bridge exploded into chaos. Red warning lights bathed everything in an eerie glow, while sirens wailed throughout the harmony. The massive view screen flickered with incoming transmissions from deep space, each signal stronger than anything humanity had ever detected. "Sir, we're getting multiple contacts on long-range sensors," called out Lieutenant Park Ji-woo from the navigation station, his voice cracking with tension. "These readings, they're impossible. The ships are massive, bigger than our entire space station." Lee Sung straightened in his command chair, watching as the communications array lit up like a Christmas tree. After 3 years of lonely travel, through the void, searching for signs of intelligent life, they had finally found it. Or rather, it had found them. Captain Park Min-ho rushed onto the bridge, still pulling on his uniform jacket. "Report, Commander. What's our situation?" Before Lee Sung could answer, the main screen flickered to life. The image that appeared made several crew members gasp. A towering figure with pale blue skin and forearms stood before them, its black eyes reflecting no warmth or curiosity. Intricate silver armor covered its massive frame, and when it spoke, its voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "Primitive, species of the third planet," the alien began, its words translated by the ship's computer into perfect Korean. "I am War Commander Velthak of the Velkari Empire. Your pathetic civilization has dared to venture beyond your world without permission. This transgression cannot be tolerated." Communications Officer Kim Nari worked frantically at her station, trying to establish a proper diplomatic channel. Her fingers danced across the controls as she attempted to clean up the signal. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures. These aren't just ships, they're floating cities. Each one could house millions of beings." The alien commander continued his proclamation, seemingly unconcerned with any response. "Your species shows the arrogance typical of young civilizations. You build crude vessels and believe yourselves ready for the galaxy. The Velkari Empire has ruled these stars for 10,000 of your years. We have seen 1,000 species like yours rise and fall." Captain Park Min-ho stepped forward, his jaw set with determination. "Open a channel, Kim Nari. Let's see if we can reason with them." The young communications officer nodded, her hands steady despite the fear in her eyes. "Channel open, sir." "This is Captain Park Min-ho of the Earth vessel Harmony," he began, his voice calm and diplomatic. "We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship among the stars. We had no knowledge of your empire or any territorial boundaries. Perhaps we can discuss this misunderstanding." War Commander Velthak's expression didn't change, but something that might have been amusement flickered in his dark eyes. "Misunderstanding? Your very existence is an affront to galactic order. The Velkari determine which species may join the community of worlds. Earth was never granted this privilege." In the engineering section below, Choi Jun-seo hunched over, his scanner displays, his face growing paler by the minute. The numbers didn't make sense. No, they made perfect sense, which was the terrifying part. He activated his communicator with shaking hands. "Bridge, this is engineering. Sir, you need to see these readings. I'm detecting over 3,000 individual spacecraft in their formation. Some of them are larger than Earth's moon. Our entire solar system defense force consists of 12 ships, including us." The bridge fell silent, except for the steady hum of the life support systems. Lee Sung felt his stomach drop as the implications hit home. Humanity had been so proud of their achievement, building the Harmony and sending it to explore nearby star systems. Now they faced an empire that could crush Earth without even noticing the effort. War Commander Velthak seemed to enjoy their stunned silence. "Your scanners do not lie, primitives. The Velkari Empire spans half the galaxy. We have conquered species with technology far beyond your current capabilities, worlds that could manipulate matter at the atomic level, civilizations that had mastered faster-than-light travel for millennia. All fell before our might." Kim Nari tried again, her voice steadier now. "Surely there's room for negotiation. Humanity has much to offer. We're innovative, adaptable. We could contribute to your empire." The alien commander's laugh was like the sound of breaking glass. "Contribute? Your entire planet's population could not crew a single one of our dreadnoughts. Your most advanced weapons would barely scratch our hull plating. You are insects believing themselves equal to gods." Captain Park Min-ho felt anger rising in his chest, but he forced his voice to remain level. "What do you want from us?" "Surrender," Velthak replied simply. "You have 72 of your hours to recall all spacecraft to your homeworld and dismantle every orbital installation. Any vessel found in space after this deadline will be destroyed without warning. Earth will remain under quarantine until we decide your species' fate." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in shocked silence. Through the viewports, tiny lights began appearing in the distance, growing larger by the minute as the alien fleet approached. Humanity's first contact with alien intelligence had become their greatest nightmare, and the clock was already ticking toward an impossible deadline. The emergency bunker beneath Seoul buzzed with frantic activity as world leaders appeared on screens from every continent. President Yoon Da-hee sat at the head of the massive conference table, her usually composed demeanor cracking under the weight of humanity's first existential crisis. The translated alien ultimatum played on repeat across every news channel on Earth, sending waves of panic through major cities. "Madam President," came the voice of the British Prime Minister. Through the secure connection, "Our Space Command reports complete communication blackout with Lunar Base. The aliens have jammed all signals to our moon installations." President Yoon rubbed her temples, feeling the burden of 7 billion lives pressing down on her shoulders. "General Kang, what are our realistic options here?" General Kang Ho-jin stood before the massive holographic display showing Earth's pathetic space assets scattered across the solar system like toys in a bathtub. His weathered face showed decades of military experience, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. "Madam President, individually we're helpless," he began, manipulating the hologram to show ship positions. "The Americans have 4 military vessels. The Europeans have 3, we have 2, the Japanese have 1, and the Russians have 2 functional craft. But together—" He paused, running calculations in his head. "Together, we might buy Earth enough." "Time to think of something." The Russian president leaned forward on his screen. "You're talking about putting our military assets under unified command. That's never been done before." "Neither has facing annihilation from space," Kang Ho-jin replied grimly. "Every nation needs to contribute everything they have. Military, ships, mining vessels, research craft, even the old space station modules we could retrofit with engines." Far above Earth's atmosphere aboard the Harmony, pilot Shin Yu-jin floated in the observation deck, studying the alien fleet through high-powered telescopes. Something nagged at the back of her mind as she watched the massive ships maintain their formation. Unlike human vessels that moved independently, the alien craft seemed to pulse and shift in perfect synchronization. "Hey, Dr. Lim," she called, to the scientist working at a nearby terminal. "Take a look at this formation pattern. See how they move?" Dr. Lim Sora pushed her glasses up her nose and floated over to the viewport. Her expertise in xenobiology had proven useless until now, but patterns were patterns regardless of species. "They're moving like a school of fish, or maybe like birds, in migration. But these are mechanical ships, not living creatures." Shin Yu-jin nodded, her pilot instincts picking up subtle details others might miss. "Watch the lead ship. Every time it adjusts course, the others follow exactly 3 seconds later. It's like they're all connected somehow, receiving the same signal." Back on Earth, the emergency session had devolved into arguments between world leaders. The Chinese representative was demanding guarantees about territorial claims in space, while the Americans insisted on maintaining command structure. President Yoon slammed her hand on the table, cutting through the noise. "Enough," she shouted. "While we argue about politics, those alien ships are getting closer to Earth. General Kang, implement your unified command structure immediately. Anyone who wants to keep their sovereignty can explain it to the aliens when they arrive." The room fell silent. Through the bunker's thick walls, they could hear air raid sirens beginning to wail across Seoul. Similar sounds echoed from every major city on the planet as people fled to underground shelters or crowded into subway systems. Dr. Lim Sora worked with desperate intensity aboard the Harmony, her fingers flying across multiple keyboards as she analyzed every scrap of alien communication data they had intercepted. The translation software had given them the words, but she was looking for something deeper, the underlying technology that made their ships function. "Commander Lee," she called out over the ship's intercom. "I'm seeing something strange in their signal patterns. It's not just communication. There's some kind of control frequency embedded in every transmission." On the bridge, Commander Lee Sung felt a spark of hope for the first time in hours. "Explain, Doctor." "It's like their entire fleet operates on a single network. Every ship receives constant updates about position, speed, target acquisition. If I'm right, they're not thousands of independent vessels. They're one massive entity, controlled by a central intelligence." The implications hit the bridge crew immediately. Communications Officer Kim Nari looked up from her station with wide eyes. If they're all networked together, that means they're also vulnerable together. "Disrupt the network, and you disrupt the entire fleet," Commander Lee finished, his tactical mind already working through possibilities. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, War Commander Velthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger through the view screen. His subordinates moved around him with mechanical precision, each alien perfectly synchronized with the others through their neural implants. To the Velkari, individual thought was weakness. The collective mind of the Empire was absolute. "War Commander," reported his tactical officer, "the human vessels are beginning to group together. Should we destroy them now?" Velthak's four arms gestured dismissively. "Let them gather. It will make their destruction more efficient. These primitives cannot comprehend the futility of resistance. In 18 of their hours, this system will be cleansed of their contamination." The alien fleet adjusted course with perfect precision, thousands of ships moving as one toward Earth. But none of them noticed the small human vessel hanging back in the shadows, its crew frantically working to find the one weakness that might save their world from conquest. Dr. Lim Sora hadn't slept in 36 hours, surviving on nothing but coffee and determination as she hunched over her workstation aboard the Harmony. Her eyes burned from staring at scrolling data streams, but suddenly she saw it, the pattern hidden within the alien communications that could change everything. "Holy! Commander Lee, get down here right now!" she shouted into her communicator, her voice cracking with exhaustion and excitement. Commander Lee Sung arrived in the science lab to find Dr. Lim frantically pointing at her screen, surrounded by empty coffee cups and scattered notes. "Look at this, sir. Every single alien transmission contains the same quantum signature. They're not just talking to each other. They're sharing consciousness through quantum entanglement." She pulled up a three-dimensional model that showed the alien fleet as a web of interconnected nodes. Each ship is like a brain cell in a massive organism. Cut the connections and the whole system crashes. They've made themselves incredibly powerful but also incredibly vulnerable. Down in the engineering section, Choi Jun-seo was elbow-deep in the fusion reactor's control systems when Dr. Lim's discovery reached him. His mind immediately began racing through possibilities. Human technology was primitive compared to the aliens, but sometimes primitive meant simple, and simple meant adaptable. "If I can modify our reactor's magnetic containment field," he muttered to himself, pulling up reactor schematics on his tablet, "and overload it in a controlled burst." His fingers worked frantically across the controls. The electromagnetic pulse should disrupt quantum frequencies within a 50-kilometer radius. On Earth, Captain Park Min-ho stood in the newly established United Earth Command Center, watching as ships from every nation slowly converged on predetermined coordinates. The hastily formed alliance was fragile, held together only by humanity's shared desperation. "Chinese mining vessel." "Dragon's Breath reporting ready," came a voice through the communications array. "Russian military cruiser Volkov in position," followed another. One by one, humanity's pathetic collection of spacecraft checked in. Cargo haulers, research vessels, tourist craft and military ships, all united under one desperate plan. General Kang Ho-jin studied the tactical display, showing both human and alien positions. "Captain Park, we'll have one chance at this. If Dr. Lim's theory is wrong, or if Engineer Choi's modifications don't work, those alien ships will turn Earth into space dust." Captain Park Min-ho nodded grimly. "Then we better make sure it works. Signal all vessels. Begin final approach to target coordinates. Above Earth's atmosphere, the Velkari fleet moved into attack formation with mechanical precision. War Commander Velthak felt the collective consciousness of his empire flowing through his mind. Thousands of ship commanders thinking as one entity. The sensation was intoxicating. Perfect unity, perfect coordination, perfect power. Begin planetary. Bombardment in 10 minutes, he commanded, his thoughts instantly shared across the entire fleet. Target population centers first, make their destruction visible from space. But the war commander's confidence wavered slightly as he watched the human ships approaching. Instead of fleeing or hiding, the primitive vessels were actually moving toward his fleet. Such behavior was illogical, almost suicidal. Aboard the Harmony, Engineer Choi Jun-seo's hands shook as he made final adjustments to the reactor. Doctor, Lim, I need you to give me the exact frequency we're targeting, 1 decimal point off, and this becomes a really expensive firework. Dr. Lim double-checked her calculations, sweat beading on her forehead despite the ship's cool temperature. Quantum frequency 847.392 terahertz. That's the carrier wave, binding their entire network together. All human vessels. This is Captain Park, came the voice over every ship's communication system. Execute electromagnetic pulse in 5, 4, 3, 2. Execute. Across the solar system, 12 human ships simultaneously overloaded their power systems. Fusion reactors designed for peaceful energy production became weapons of disruption, sending coordinated electromagnetic pulses racing toward the alien fleet at the speed of light. The effect was instantaneous and devastating. War Commander Velthak felt the collective consciousness shatter like glass, leaving him alone in his own mind for the first time in decades. Around him, his crew stumbled and fell, their neural implants sparking and smoking as the quantum network collapsed. What is happening? He gasped, his forearms flailing as he tried to comprehend individual thought. Across his fleet, thousands of ships suddenly found themselves operating independently, their perfect coordination replaced by chaos and confusion. Captain Park Min-ho watched the alien formation dissolve into pandemonium and immediately seized the opportunity. All vessels attack pattern Delta. Hit them while they're blind. The human ships built for independent operation and manual control swarmed the confused alien vessels like angry wasps. Pilot Shin Yu-jin pushed the Harmony into a steep dive, her hands steady on controls that responded to human intuition rather than collective programming. Their shields are fluctuating, reported Tactical Officer Kim Nari as she targeted the nearest alien cruiser. Whatever powered their defenses was tied to that network. The Chinese mining vessel, Dragon's Breath, rammed its drilling equipment straight through an alien ship's hull, while the Russian cruiser, Volkov, unleashed everything in its weapons arsenal at point-blank range. Human ingenuity and desperation proved more effective than alien technology and arrogance. War Commander Velthak watched his mighty fleet crumble around him, unable to comprehend how primitive humans had found the one weakness the Velkari Empire never considered. Individual thought, independent action, and the stubborn refusal to surrender, concepts so foreign to the collective mind that they had become humanity's greatest weapons in the fight for survival. Admiral Thexmar's massive form trembled with rage as he stood alone on his flagship's bridge, surrounded by the sparking remains of quantum communication nodes. For the first time in 3 centuries of conquest, the supreme commander of the Velkari fleet faced the terrifying experience of independent thought. His forearms shook as he tried to process what the primitive humans had accomplished. "How is this possible?" he roared at his bridge crew, who stumbled around like newborns learning to walk. Without the collective consciousness guiding their every action, the Velkari warriors moved with clumsy uncertainty. "These insects have technology barely capable of interplanetary travel." His tactical officer, a being that had never formed an original thought in its lifetime, stared blankly at dead screens. "Admiral, our quantum network is completely severed. Ships are reporting system failures across the entire fleet. We cannot coordinate attacks or defensive formations." Meanwhile, aboard the Harmony, Communications Officer Kim Nari worked frantically at her station, broadcasting on every frequency she could access. Her fingers danced across the controls as she transmitted. Humanity's defiant message across the galaxy. This is Kim Nari of the Earth vessel Harmony, broadcasting to all sentient species. Her voice carried through subspace, reaching listening posts on 1,000 different worlds. The Velkari Empire claimed we were too primitive to deserve freedom. They demanded our surrender without negotiation. Today, humanity shows the galaxy that no species should kneel before tyranny. On distant worlds throughout Velkari space, oppressed civilizations received the transmission with growing excitement. The Zephyrians, enslaved for mining operations, looked up from their work with hope flickering in their crystalline eyes. The aquatic Nereidans, forced to surrender their ocean worlds, began secret communications with resistance cells they thought were dead. "The humans did it," whispered Kethvar, a Zephyrian resistance leader, to his followers in the underground tunnels of their homeworld. "If a primitive species can break the Velkari network, perhaps our time for freedom has finally come." Back in the solar system, Commander Lee Sung suited up in combat armor as the Harmony closed in on a crippled Velkari destroyer. The alien ship drifted helplessly, its crew unable to function without their collective guidance system. "Boarding Team Alpha, prepare for breach," Lee Sung commanded through his helmet communicator. "Remember, we need their technology intact. Dr. Lim needs every piece of equipment we can salvage." The magnetic clamps engaged with a satisfying thunk as the Harmony locked onto the alien vessel's hull. Lee Sung led 12 Marines through the airlock, their boots clanging against metal corridors that seemed designed for beings twice their size. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows as they moved deeper into the ship. "Sir, movement ahead," reported Sergeant Park Jae Sung, his rifle trained on an intersection. Around the corner, 3 Velkari warriors stood motionless, their neural implants flickering weakly. Without the collective mind to guide them, they seemed lost and confused. "Secure them," Lee Sung ordered. "They're no threat in this condition." Meanwhile, pilot Shin Yu-jin pushed the Harmony through a series of impossible maneuvers that defied every law of space combat. Where Velkari ships moved in predictable patterns dictated by their programming, human vessels danced through space. With organic fluidity, "Incoming missile lock from that cruiser," warned Tactical Officer Kim Min-soo from his station. "Not today," Shin Yu-jin grinned, pulling the ship into a corkscrew dive that would have been suicide for any pilot trained by collective consciousness. The Velkari targeting systems, designed to predict logical flight paths, completely lost track of the erratically moving human vessel. The missile sailed harmlessly past as Shin Yu-jin brought the Harmony around for a strafing run. "Let's show them how humans really fly," she muttered, executing a barrel roll that brought their weapons to bear on the alien ship's exposed reactor housing. Across the galaxy, the impossible news spread like wildfire. On the ocean world of Naraya, the resistance leader Tidal Song received confirmation that 3 Velkari garrison fleets had lost communication with the Central Command. For the first time in 50 years, she dared to hope. "Gather the deep swimmers," she sang to her followers in their melodic language. "If the humans can shatter the network that binds us, we can reclaim our seas." Admiral Thexmar watched helplessly as his mighty fleet crumbled around him. Ships collided with each other as their pilots struggled to operate independently. Weapons systems fired randomly, or not at all. The perfect synchronization that had conquered half the galaxy became a liability when severed from its source. "Admiral," his communications officer reported with obvious strain, "we're receiving rebellion reports from 17 worlds. The Zephyrians have seized 3 mining stations, the Nereidans are attacking our underwater bases, and the crystalline entities on Zerion Prime have somehow escaped containment." The Admiral's black eyes widened as the full scope of the disaster became clear. The humans hadn't just disrupted his fleet, they had shattered the very foundation of Velkari control. Across the galaxy, species that had been enslaved for centuries suddenly found themselves free to act independently, and they were choosing violence against their oppressors. "Impossible," he whispered, watching as another section of his fleet suffered catastrophic damage from the surprisingly effective human attacks. "These primitives have doomed us all." But aboard the Harmony, Commander Lee Sung emerged from the captured alien ship, carrying armloads of quantum communication equipment, while pilot Shin Yu-jin prepared for another impossible attack run. The tide of battle had turned completely, and humanity's stubborn refusal to surrender was inspiring an entire galaxy to stand up and fight for freedom. Admiral Thexmar's flagship limped through space, its hull scorched and bleeding atmosphere from a dozen breaches. Around him, the remnants of what had once been the galaxy's most feared armada scattered like frightened animals. Ships that had conquered entire star systems now fled in panic, their crews struggling to operate basic functions without the collective network that had guided them for millennia. "Signal the retreat," the Admiral commanded, his voice hollow with defeat. "All remaining vessels, withdraw to the outer rim. We cannot hold this system." The words tasted like poison in his mouth. Never in the 10,000-year history of the Velkari Empire had they retreated from a primitive species. Yet here they were, running from humans who had somehow turned their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. On Earth, President Yoon Da-hee stood in the command center, watching the alien ships disappear into the darkness of space. Around her, exhausted military personnel erupted in celebration, but she remained focused on the massive holographic display showing incoming communications from across the galaxy. "Madam President," her aide reported breathlessly, "we're receiving over 300 first contact messages. Species we've never heard of are requesting diplomatic relations. They all want to meet the humans who broke the Velkari Empire." The first transmission she opened came from the crystalline beings of Zerion Prime. Their leader, a being of living light called Shard Speaker, appeared on the screen with what might have been a smile. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the entity's voice chimed like musical crystals. "Your courage has freed my people from centuries of slavery. The Velkari forced us to create weapons using our crystal-shaping abilities. Now we offer to share our knowledge with those who showed us that freedom is possible." The next message came from the aquatic Nereidans, their leader Tidal Song, swimming gracefully through what appeared to be an underwater palace. "The children of the sea salute the children of the land," she sang. "Our worlds offer safe harbor to human vessels, and our biotechnology to heal the wounds of war." President Yoon felt tears forming in her eyes as message after message poured in. The Zephyrians offered mining rights and advanced materials. The insectoid hive minds of the Spiral Arm requested cultural exchange programs. Even species that had remained neutral during Velkari expansion now sought friendship with humanity. Aboard the Harmony, Dr. Lim So-ra worked surrounded by alien technology that would have seemed impossible just days before. Quantum computers the size of matchboxes processed information faster than Earth's most advanced supercomputers. Energy cells that could power entire cities for years sat on her workbench like curious trinkets. "Commander Lee," she called out excitedly, "look at this propulsion system. The Velkari ships use quantum tunneling to achieve faster-than-light travel. If I can reverse engineer this, we could reach the nearest star systems in days instead of years." Engineer Choi Jun-seo peered over her shoulder, his practical mind already working through the possibilities. "The power requirements alone would require us to completely redesign our fusion reactors. But if we could build ships with this technology, humanity would become a true spacefaring civilization overnight," Dr. Lim finished, her voice filled with wonder. Back on Earth, General Kang Ho-jin stood before representatives from every nation, his weathered face showing the strain of the past few days. The hastily constructed alliance that had saved Earth now needed to become something permanent. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "we can never again be caught unprepared. The Velkari may be retreating, but they're not gone, and who knows what other threats exist out there among the stars." The Russian representative leaned forward. "You're proposing a permanent military alliance, a single command structure for all human space operations." "I'm proposing survival," General Kang replied firmly. "The United Earth Defense Council will coordinate our expansion into space, share alien technology among all nations, and ensure that humanity speaks with one voice when dealing with galactic civilizations." The vote was unanimous. For the first time in human history, the nations of Earth truly stood united, bound together by the shared experience of nearly losing everything they held dear. Captain Park Min-ho stood on the bridge of the Harmony, watching Earth grow smaller in the rear-view screen as they began their journey home. The planet looked so small and fragile from space, yet it had produced the species that brought down a galactic empire. "Sir," Communications Officer Kim Nari reported, "We're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian homeworld. They're inviting us to be the first human diplomatic mission to their planet." Captain Park smiled, remembering the fear and helplessness he had felt when the Velkari first appeared. Now, those same stars that had seemed impossibly distant were calling out with voices of friendship and alliance. "Set course for Zephyrian space," he commanded. "It's time humanity took its place among the stars." Pilot Shin Yujin's hands moved across the controls with practiced ease, no longer flying desperately to survive, but confidently toward humanity's future. Behind them, Earth continued its ancient rotation, but everything had changed. The planet that had once seemed isolated and vulnerable was now the center of a growing alliance of free worlds. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't advanced technology or overwhelming numbers. It was something far more dangerous to any tyrant, the absolute refusal to surrender when protecting what they loved. And that lesson would echo through the stars for generations to come. Cetise.